I think I had the microphone off again. You guys didn't hear any of that, did you? That's cool. One of these days. See, this is why producers are sometimes handy, sometimes valuable. These guys like Castic Mike over at Stochastic, Mike B. Lawrence, our pal, our buddy Tyler Zander from back in the day over at Stochastic. These producers do tell us things from time to time, like, "Hey, dummy, your microphone's not turned on." Valuable insights. They also do all the little graphics and everything that I kind of lack on these shows when it's just me. I also don't really love my camera here. Hold on. You guys are little production. Here we go. That looks a little bit better. As I was saying, it is ugly out there. It's disgusting out there, as Larry C is saying. Weird smoky day. It's like orange and hazy, kind of dark outside across the country, particularly here in the New York area. It's just really bad. Kind of tastes like burnt maple syrup outside. Just a really weird day. But yeah, welcome to the show, gang. Welcome, as I was saying while on mute there, welcome to the rotoscouts MLB DFS Lineup Card show. Got a lot to talk about. Kind of getting everything updated in the back end. I just dropped all the confirmed lineups in. I didn't get a chance to run through the run totals, but I don't think there's been any massive changes. I'm just taking a quick glance at it. Everything looks roughly around where I had it, so I don't think we're going to run into anything that looks too odd if I don't do any updates there. So I won't take the time to do that. I think we can kind of dive right in. 10 games. I got the article up on the site. All the home run picks and everything are posted up on the site. Been writing all day. That's what I was saying on mute as well. I was writing kind of all day. Slept in a little bit by accident today till after like 11 o'clock after going to bed at like 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So just kind of woke up, been writing about this slate, and now we're going to dive in and talk it through just like I did yesterday. But no rest for the weary. So let's dive into it. Could be Travis says, what's happening? He's from Vancouver, BC, so used to the wildfires. Hope everything turns out on the east. Yeah, I mean, everything, down this way obviously is fine. We're just dealing with the smoke and everything from it, but hopefully everybody who's actually dealing with the fire aspects of it up in Canada is quite all right and dealing with that. But yeah, it's just weird and ugly. I went outside after the show yesterday. It's strange. I didn't really notice it through the day yesterday, just being inside writing about those 12 games, then doing the show and everything. And then I went outside to take the dog for our usual walk, a short one anyway, before building my lineups. And I was like, oh shit, I guess it's a big thunderstorm or something coming in. And then through the Yankees broadcast after the fact, I found out about the smoke situation. So just what happens when you don't really pay attention to a lot of the news, I guess. But yeah, fun stuff to deal with. We'll see what impact that has on the game. As far as I know right now, this game is still on track to be played. Definitely worse conditions, it seems like, right here in the New York metropolitan area. I'm in Jersey City, for those that don't know. So as the crow flies, I'm 5 miles, I think, from Yankee Stadium, 7 miles, something like that, and like 10, 12 from Citi Field. So I get a pretty decent feel for the weather, the conditions here. But as far as I know, they're going to play. Boone didn't seem happy about it last night in the presser, but was kind of not happy about the Judge situation and a lot of things. And they basically were saying, look, it's up to Major League Baseball. It's not a Yankees decision. So we'll see what happens. But assuming it does go, we've got an interesting pitching matchup. We've got Lance Lynn, the veteran, taking the hill, 25.1% strikeout rate for Lynn. He's been better, I think, than probably the perception in the public around the industry. 6.55 ERA is ugly on the surface, but there's been a couple bad games and then a pretty decent run of typical Lance Lynn quality. 4.06 xFIP is fine. 12% swinging strike rate is very good. His CSW dipped a little bit from, I think it was 28 and change last year to just 26.8, but the swinging strikes are right about where they were. The whip is a little high. The walks are a little high. The power output's been aggressively bad at 9.1% barrels and 4.95% home run rate. But again, a lot of that came in just a couple starts. So I do think you get some quality at price anyway, at 8,700, 8,200. The struggles or perception of struggles anyway, or the weird happenstance that's in his line right now is pretty much baked into those prices. Against this Yankees lineup with no Aaron Judge, there's enough strikeouts here. It's not aggressively bad for strikeouts up and down, but there's plenty of strikeouts for a guy like Lance Lynn to come out, pitch 6-7 clean innings in an ugly, dirty air day. He can certainly give us some good innings here, book the quality start, find a win against the Yanks. You expect that the White Sox are at least going to put up a competitive game with Randy Vasquez on the mound for the Yankees. I think he's potentially effective enough. Struck out a handful of hitters in a 4 2/3 inning start the other day. I just question if you get any kind of depth out of him. Like, I think we're getting 5 innings out of the game, and if he gets into any kind of trouble, he's probably going to get a fairly quick hook from Boone. It's not like this kid's a premium prospect. He was only pitching okay in the minors, decent enough strikeout rate to justify the promotion, but not overly effective in the minors. So for 4,000 on the DK slate, I think you can throw a few Randy Vasquez darts. He's going to make a full enough start, and there is a little bit of strikeout upside there against the White Sox lineup that's been struggling, that has a 26.1% strikeout rate overall. They are better than that. They're better than they've been. There is talent up and down this White Sox lineup, so I don't want to get carried away with the Vasquez shares, but when you're getting him at a cheap hitter price on the DK slate, I do think he's got the ability to post an effective enough start on an ugly day for pitching. It's a short, ugly pitching slate today. So at that price, if we have 5 innings out of him, you could chase the potential for a decent enough handful of points type of a start as a cheapo SP2 on DK. I don't know that I would do it on FanDuel. The price is right to be able to throw that dart at 55. Even if he only gets you the win at 55 or the handful of clean innings with some strikeouts, I just don't have enough faith in the strikeouts and the clean innings, and I don't think he chases the quality start here. I don't think he gets a 6 innings, so it's a little dicier on the FanDuel slate. I prefer the Lynn side if I'm rostering a pitcher from this game, but Vasquez darts are certainly viable on DK. And then you can get to, I think some White Sox stacks here. You get Tim Anderson, Andrew Benintendi, Luis Robert, Eloy Jimenez, Yohan Moncada, Andrew Vaughn, Jake Berger off the top. You get Romy Gonzalez and 2 home run man Sebi Zavala. 2 home run night for Sebi. Ridiculous after I kind of like hand waved him at the bottom of the lineup. Dude's hitting 170, 204, 318 for the season, a 38 WRC plus, and now 4 home runs after his 2 homer night. Just ridiculous. Larry C asks, what was I doing up till 4:35? 2 minutes behind. I was actually, last night I got hooked into playing the game Stellaris, which is one of those Paradox Grand Strategy games. I've had it for a long time. I've gotten into it a couple different times, and then had put it aside for a while, and then I think I told you guys, I just binged the first season of the show that came out a couple years ago on Apple Foundation, which is based on the Isaac Asimov books. It's about a big multi-thousand-year sprawling galactic empire and so on and so forth. And that kind of just got me back into like, let me fire up a new Empire in Stellaris. And then hours and hours later, there I was. So that's the fascinating story of my Monday night. Hope yours was more exciting. Let's see. Dennis says more like Clark. Shit, yeah, couldn't agree. Yeah, Travis, Aaron Hicks, we'll get there. Of course he hit that home run. That was a mortal lock once I went on that rant. He still sucks. Brent Rooker hit a home run as well, if you want to throw another one onto that fire last night. But yeah, you would think with those kind of results, still had a few chasers in my results, and put one in, I think it was 5th place last night with a handful of lineups. I think like 4 people shared 3rd place. I was in 5th on the FanDuel slate. But yeah, a handful of chasers on a weird night for results-wise. Just shows why you need to spread out for DFS. We're talking about lineup construction a lot lately in the Discord. For anybody who asked those questions in our Discord, I'll try and get to dropping some answers for you in there today. I was just, as I said, a busy day. Yanks on the other side of this one. You can throw Yanks at Lance Lynn. Certainly there's upside for power with a Giancarlo Stanton and Anthony Rizzo. Even Josh Donaldson, 4 home runs on the season, 3 of them in the last week since he came back. He's an all or nothing home run option these days, but 3,200, 2,900 at third base, that's perfectly viable there. If we have Volpe in the 5 spot, he's struggled for the season in terms of his triple slash, his on base acumen, his run creation. The counting stats are nice, 9 home runs, 14 stolen bases, but as I've said, he needs to do more. But the 3,800, the 2,900 to fill shortstop, especially if it's 5th in this lineup, is fine. Joker's like freaking out under the table. Would you calm down, please? Go lie down. What's your problem? We were just hanging out a few minutes ago. Go lie down. Not letting him out too much with all the smoke and everything. They say to keep the pets inside, so he might just need to go out, but he's going to have to wait. So yeah, Yanks up top, it's the top end, is at least fairly effective. If it's this version 1 through 5. Willie Calhoun, you take or leave. 21-26 is at least an appropriate price for a former top prospect. He's never been good at the major league level, but there's the idea that he's a guy who knows how to put bat on ball in the right spot. He's connected for 3 home runs and 90 WRC plus in 125 plate appearances. At the bottom or as a correlated scoring piece in this Yankees lineup, if you're going there, it's fine. I think Jake Bauers is the more interesting guy. I think they should probably have Bauers hitting 5th instead of Volpe. Maybe you go Bauers 5th, Volpe 6th, Calhoun 7th, put Isaiah Kiner Falefa on the bench. or if you insist on playing him, put him ninth. That's kind of how I would approach the lineup here. But if you get Bowers at the bottom of the batting order, he's a little bit less interesting, but I do think there's a little bit of justifiable power upside there from the left side of the plate. So maybe you sneak him into a few stacks of Yankees, but it's not great. I'd probably go Lynn, White Sox, Yanks, Vasquez. The value is certainly there at 4,000 for the Vasquez shares on DK though. Low end FanDuel play. This is an interesting spot. Not me taking a sip of coffee. This Monopoly mug, by the way, whenever you see it, there's a big old chip in the side of it here. So one of these days, you guys are gonna see me just like slice my lip open live on YouTube, which will be fun. That'll be a bonus day. So watch out for that. All the reason in the world to keep on coming back. That's the reason to hit the subscribe button. See when I slice my lip open live on YouTube. Make sure that you get those notifications by clicking that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Give me a little love. Really appreciate it. I was saying it yesterday. I really appreciate the hell out of you guys. Everybody just, coming day after day to hang out. And then also hitting those likes and subscribes. Just, it's cool to see. I really appreciate the, building of the channel and all the support you guys are giving me. Low-end pitching matchup here. Nationals throwing Patrick Corbin at the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks answering with Zach Davies. I think you're going to bats on both sides of this one. The Nationals, lower end than they were last night. We've talked about them a number of different times. I wrote about it again yesterday. They're better against left-handed pitching. They're potentially, arguably pretty good against left-handed pitching, and they came through kind of again last night. You saw some early support for some high scores that trailed off over time because they tended to be rostered alongside some pitchers who didn't come through outside of Gaussman, who had a nice game. He was in a lot of combinations with Nats, but it didn't fully deliver last night because it was geared primarily around the righties. Today, I think you can run through the righties. I think you get Heimer Candelario back in the lineup here against Zach Davies. He's much better as a lefty power bat against righties. All 7 of his home runs this year have come against righties from the left side of the plate. He's got a 200 and change ISO from the left side of the plate, a pretty robust run creation mark. So I think you're going Thomas, maybe some Luis Garcia, some Heimer Candelario, Meneses. Dickerson's okay. He's cheap. Veteran bat with a little bit of power from the left side. He's fine to go to. But like the Dom Smith, Riley Adams, CJ Abrams, Alex Call portion of this, no Keibert Ruiz, who I like as a catcher. That's a little bit weak on the back end. So maybe kind of a ding to a Nationals lineup that I was already not enthusiastic about, kind of having to play because of the presence of Zach Davies. Davies just 17% strikeout rate, 11% walks, just puts too many guys on base, doesn't strike enough guys out. This is a small sample this year, but it was also true last year and throughout his career. He's targetable with bats. It's just the Nats against a righty. It's not a great spot. They're an affordable value play, but there's a lot of value on this slate too. Like I think the Brewers are a pretty strong value play. I know we've gone back to that one to varying degrees of success, but they're just so cheap, and they've got those weirdo extra cheap bats in the lineup, and there's like 5-6 guys with multi-position in that lineup. So if I'm looking for value, I think I like the Brewers' opportunity a little bit better than the Nationals here. Diamondbacks are a high-end stack, and the Nats were carrying a healthy implied run total, by the way. So don't wholly discount it. The Diamondbacks, though, high-end stack. Ketel Marte, Corbin Carroll, Emmanuel Rivera up top. I like the idea of them letting Corbin Carroll hit second against the lefty. The projected had him drop down in the lineup. Let the kid roll. He's slashing 287, 520, 233, 42% better than average creating runs, 10 home runs, 17 steals on the season. Dynamite option for DFS, and you like the extra plate appearance hitting second. So that's pretty strong there. Christian Walker, Evan Longoria in the heart of the lineup. We talked about Longoria yesterday as a platoon specialist against left-handed pitching. He's my overall home run pick for the day. I love the spot. 9.48 in the home run model. Puts him just below the magic number. 8 dingers on the year. A 289 ISO in 104 plate appearances, primarily against lefties. I think we can go to that pretty aggressively. Pavin Smith drops in the lineup against the lefty, but 3,500, 2,900. Still playable from that spot with Patrick Corbin on the mound. Nick Ahmed, Jake McCarthy, and Gabe Moreno rounded out. I think Moreno and McCarthy are easily playable from the bottom spots. If you're building a lot of Diamondback stacks, I would definitely have them. Strong focus on the top 5, mix and match pieces through the bottom half of the lineup here for Arizona, but I think we can definitely go to them. You get aggressive power upside in Christian Walker, good power even lefty from Carroll. Marte's had a really productive season, a lot of runs created, decent enough in terms of the strikeout rate, and you're going up against Patrick Corbin, who the 3.67% home run rate is not completely on fire like he was 2 years ago. He was actually a little bit better for power last year as well, but still an aggressively high 8.8% barrels, 45.8% hard hits, 91.1 miles an hour average. Exit velo up against a team that does hit for power, does hit the ball pretty hard. I think he's in play even if they don't hit home runs, just for run creation purposes. I think there's enough here. 4.92 ERA, 4.48 xFIP on the season, and Corbin's only striking out 14% of hitters. He's non-threatening on the mound. There's plenty of contact available. This Diamondbacks team should deliver today. Let's see. Questions in the chat. Trey says, I had Keller with my Nat stacks. How are you that bad versus Oakland? That was exactly what we said yesterday, right? We said all the faith in the world. Let's go with it. Or not all the faith in the world, but we said, hey, we're going to play the hell out of it. But we never fully trust Keller like I think I compared him to an abusive spouse after what he's done to us all these years. So never fully trust it. The way I put it was, isn't this Oakland team like the perfect weirdo, shitty team to put a clunker on him? And yeah, I had a ton of him yesterday. I played the hell out of that play, and major letdown in that spot versus Oakland. They've been frustrating that way. They got to Sandy Alcantara the other day. They're weird in those spots. This season, frustrating team to fail against, but yeah, that was a bad one. Austin Prasad asks if I use Fantasy Cruncher. I do not. I actually use RotoGrinders Optimizer. Used to use Fantasy Cruncher. Was a big endorser of their product until they decided to IP ban me because they don't believe in customer service, and I do. I can say these things on my channel. I can't say these things on other channels. Yeah, a little bit of a situation. One day I'll tell you guys. One day we'll do like a live watch along, and I'll have some beers and whatever, and get some loose lips going on. Need somebody else to drag these stories out of me. No hard feelings against my pals at Stochastic, for the most part. But yeah, or across the board. It's really, only ownership that I had a disagreement Stochastic-wise. But yeah, Fantasy Cruncher I have long-standing philosophical disagreements with. I do believe in the product. The optimizer is very good. I can probably answer your questions about it. The product works, but I had my most profitable year of DFS last year after switching off of it. Optimizers are just mechanisms to build lineups quickly. That's really all they are, and they should be viewed as that. They're not magic buttons to create winning lineups necessarily. It depends on your input to create the winning lineups, and they're very similar from site to site. I'll say that. We've got some guys in the Stochastic Discord who built optimizers in Python that are faster and work better than some of these other ones. It all just depends on what you're looking to pay, what you're looking for bells and whistles wise. Some have additional features beyond what others do. Some allow for more control, some allow for less control. Some use nonlinear approaches, some use direct approaches to just build the highest projected lineups. So it all really depends. But there are a few different products out there. But yeah, personal disagreements with the you guys know who I'm talking about over at Fantasy Cruncher. Got IP banned last June for chiming in the Stochastic Discord with some customer service notes after that person went on a ridiculous rant against some of the paying customers over there. Yeah, I got IP banned for it, and got a message that I never responded to that just basically said hey, good luck in this industry. As in you can't win in this industry without my product. And like I said, went on to have my best year. So sometimes just winning quietly and living well is the best revenge, as they say. Anyway, nice sidebar there. Good question there, Austin. So no, I don't use Fantasy Cruncher. Anyway, we've talked enough about this game and about Fantasy Cruncher. Let's move on. Ronel Blanco on the hill. A playable enough piece, I think, maybe for some value here if he gets the innings. This dog is driving me bananas today. 24.7% strikeout rate. One start, pitched out of the pen early in the season. I'm trying to remember this now. Let me pull up my article here real quick so I can remember the details about this dude. I got a little sidetracked in my thoughts there while talking about FC. 29-year-old non-prospect was pitching out of the bullpen early in the year. Fairly ineffective over 12 innings. Went down to the minors, dominated AAA, came back last week, struck out 5 Angels, walked 3, allowed 2 runs, including a home run, but went 5 1/3. So he's stretched out, and I think there's enough strikeout upside potentially for him to have an effective enough cheapo pitcher start at like the SP2 $5,200 range. So if you're considering $4,000 Vasquez from the Yankees, particularly if that game gets called, I think maybe Blanco is an equivalent type of an option for a little bit more, maybe a little bit more of an idea of length, because they don't, necessarily care about protecting this guy's arm. He's, he's, what did I say, 29? So it's not like he's a prospect. So I think they just let him pitch. So if he's going well, finds a few strikeouts, he could give you a little bit of upside there. It's not great. Don't get me wrong. You can see the fairly low projection here going up against the Blue Jays lineup. We know they've got deadly hitters. We know they're very difficult to strike out. So you're definitely going to Blue Jays bats against this guy. But in a few shares as an SP2 on DK, I think you can get away with it, as a play across 150 lineups. I think you can get away with it. Springer, Bo Bichette, Vladdy Guerrero off the top, all fairly high prices. Not in the 6,000s or above 4,000 though, so like fair enough prices. Vladdy's had a little bit of power output concerns, but no concerns whatsoever in his barrel rate, his hard hit numbers that have both gone up for the season. Still only striking out 15.7% of the time. It's just the ball hasn't sailed over the wall quite as regularly, hasn't dropped in for doubles and ISO supporting stats quite as frequently for him. So 177 ISO. This is all going to look perfectly fine for Vladdy by the end of the season. I'm not at all concerned. You go to Springer, Bichette, Vlad. You can roster Brandon Belt alongside of them for a discount in the cleanup spot. As we've touched on, it sucks that you get them both, of him and Vladdy at first base as a decision point on DK. You're going to go to Vlad most of the time in that spot. But with everybody doing that, that frees up a lot of free Brandon Belt shares. He's been productive. He's a power hitter in years past. Hasn't hit for a ton of power this year with only 3 homers, a 159 ISO, but still involved. 29% better than average creating runs in his moderate sample, 10.5% barrel rate, 43.4% hard hits. So there's enough meat on the bone with Brandon Belt. He's a solid veteran player at that cheap price, hitting cleanup in a good lineup here, going up against a AAA kind of a pitcher, or a relief. He's either a stretched out reliever or he's a AAA pitcher. He's one or the other. So either way, I think we could throw bats at him. Dalton Varsho sneaking up in the home run total now, 11 home runs since we started calling out that trade that the Blue Jays made. So nice to see him catching on a little bit. Still has a long way to go to get to good numbers, but the power's nice to see that coming back a little bit. That's what he's paid for anyway. 27 homers last year. You don't really care about his triple slash as long as the ISO, the run creation, and the power come around. Whit Merrifield, second base, outfield eligible. Kevin Kiermaier, Tyler Heineman. Interesting enough mix and match pieces, at least with Merrifield and Kiermaier. Merrifield, a lot of speed, moderate power, good hit tool to mix and match through second base and outfield. Nice flexible player there. On the other side, Chris Bassett, I think is fine here. I really don't worry that much about Bassett. He's had a few really clunky starts, but overall, a 3.41 ERA. The 4.60 xFIP is probably the more honest number. It's probably somewhere in between those two. 12 starts, 74 innings, gives you a lot of depth. He had that really awful game to start the year, and then he had 2 other, bleh kind of starts, but he went on a stretch of, I counted up in the article, it was 7 quality starts in eight starts. Then came back with 7 2/3 of 8 strikeout, 3 hit shutout innings against the Mets in his last start. So I think we just had a couple bumps in the road for a guy that we know is a at least serviceable pitcher. He doesn't have a ton of strikeout upside, but he always gives us depth. Bassett has always been good at chasing quality starts, chasing depth. You can see the innings total in those 12 starts is good, particularly when he came out of that first one early and one other one fairly early. So I think we get enough from Bassett here. He's going up against a Astros lineup that does... Oh, no, it does have Jose Altuve. He's just not leading off. Who's missing here? No Bregman. So Bregman's out of the lineup. So it's fun to do these on the fly and figure out where the missing parts are. So no Bregman in the lineup. Jainer Diaz hitting 6th. Jokes, McCormick, Gray Kessinger at shortstop. Forgive me, guys, I don't know that name. If he's a prospect, he's one that's evaded my radar. Dead minimum at shortstop. So Larry C says the Yanks game was just postponed. All right, so we probably should have just skipped that one to buy some time up at the top of the show. But anyway, weird Astros lineup and a fairly underperforming Astros lineup. Altuve's been fine in his limited 49 plate appearances. He's a star, tons of power at second base. You love Jose Altuve. Go to him with confidence. Same thing with Jordan Alvarez. He's been on form. Kyle Tucker a little bit below form. Mauricio Dubon, mediocre option at the top of the lineup. So really, outside of those 3, there's nobody I'm that worried about here. I think this is a potentially good spot for Chris Bassett. 95-98 is about the right price. He projects fairly well. I think we've got a decent shot at chasing the win, chasing the quality start bonus. 6-7 fairly clean innings, 2-3 runs, something like that. Handful of strikeouts here. I think that's all in play for Chris Bassett here. And as we talked about yesterday, this is not your Astros cheating lineups of days gone by. There are a handful of strikeouts with some of these hitters. There is a lack of quality with a lot of these hitters on the bottom end. So I think we've got upside with Bassett. You can take your shots with some Astros shares against him, but they were totaled low, and I expect it's probably going to get even lower with this funky version of the lineup here. So I don't love the Astros opportunity. I'll have some. They'll probably be low owned, so there's a little bit of tournament upside around the Alvarez, the Tucker, the power core there of the world with Altuve bolted on there as well. Those three maybe is like a contrarian three-man secondary type stack. If you're going to other guys, it's McCormick, maybe some Jolks, maybe some Jainer Diaz. Abreu's been terrible, as we've talked about. Dubon is meh. It's not a great lineup there. So for me, this is probably Blue Jays, Bassett, Astros, Blanco, with only tepid interest in Blanco, and probably only if I was playing on DK. I don't think you need it at 56 on FanDuel. He could get you there, and it is an ugly pitching slate. So if you do get the day where like all of the top end goes pop, and he delivers at a serviceable, 25 to 30 points at 5,600, that could be in play on FanDuel. So I don't want to totally discount it, but it's ugly. And you did lose, we did lose Lance Lynn, and we did lose Chipo Randy Vasquez from this first game here. So it's ugly, and it's getting uglier. Bo Sox, Guardians. We pick up a good pitcher in this game. I really like Tanner Bybee. Very good young pitcher. He's made 7 starts, 39 and a third quality innings, 25.2% strikeouts, 6.3% walks, 3.20 ERA, a 4.21 xFIP. This is one to watch. This kid is going to be good over time, I think. He might not go to ace caliber levels. Like I'm about to make a comparison just because it's a video overlay that I've mentioned a couple times. I am not saying he is this pitcher, but there's a mechanics overlay where you put him on top of Justin Verlander and it looks identical in terms of how they deliver the ball. And the kid modeled himself after Verlander. It's not like a mystery as to why that happened. This kid grew up watching Verlander and said, hey, that's how I should pitch. And it's been effective for him. He's not going to be Justin Verlander, but he's going to be, I think, an effective mid-rotation pitcher at worst with upside to like a second starter somewhere in there. I don't think he's a top of the rotation guy, but he's good. And he's proven it already in this small sample in the majors. Only a 1.89% home run rate. 36.8% hard hits is fine. 6.6% barrels is good. So a lot of upside here for him. Red Sox lineup, a couple tough hitters to strike out at the top of the lineup. Rafael Devers underperforming in the cleanup role. He's hitting behind Verdugo, Yoshida, and Justin Turner. 13.6%, 10.3%. Excellent strikeout rate for Yoshida over his first 234 plate appearances in the show. And then Justin Turner, 15.6. Everybody else in this lineup, Devers 21 and change. Everybody else higher than that, into the 30s on the back end, with a back end that includes Casas, Enrique Hernandez, Jaron Duran, Connor Wong, who I do like a catcher, Emmanuel Valdez. It's not a great back end for Boston here. So significant price-based upside, significant pure upside, I think, for Bybee. I think he's arguably low-priced here. So there's a lot of value in those numbers. 85 on DK. You can combine him with another high-price pitcher and use him that way. You can use him as a cheap SP1, I think, here. There's, of course, danger lurking in the Verdugo, Yoshida, Turner, Devers part of this lineup. You can maybe throw Casas onto that pile with his contact profile, but it hasn't been pretty for Casas. So some hedge stacks of Red Sox are in order. Verdugo off the top there is a very good leadoff man. 122 WRC plus, gets on base like crazy. Yoshida, like I said, excellent strikeout rate, 319, 393, 502 to start his major league career. 7 home runs, a 184 ISO, 146 WRC plus to lead the Red Sox so far this season. I was questioning the buy. A lot of people were, when they made it, in terms of what they paid him versus what his talent was going to settle in at. And it looked like we were all right about that, in the start of his season. But he has really pulled things together, turned into a nice player. He might not be a titanic power hitter, but as far as a run creator, a good average and on-base guy, he's excelled so far this year. So I like Yoshida up there. Turner, Devers, you're putting those guys obviously together. But Devers is scuffled. The contact profile is fine. The barrels and the hard hits are actually both up. But 241, 296, 478 is not Rafael Devers. 13 home runs, 237 ISO is fine, but 103 WRC plus, we need more from him. 5,400, 3,600 is a nice price to find that hitter at, though. Back end, your roster's mix and match pieces. I touched on Connor Wong. Very good contact profile from him. He's like Kyle Higashioka from the Yanks, who I talk about all the time. A little bit more productive than Higashioka so far. But what I like about both hitters is just an aggressively good contact profile. Higgy's got a higher hard hit rate. They both barrel the ball pretty frequently, and both just good bat on ball guys when they do make contact. 6 home runs on the season, a 227 ISO in only 140 sneaky plate appearances for Wong. So maybe you go to him alongside some of that top end there for the Red Sox. You can roster some of these guys. Like Duran's a productive enough guy, but he's cooled. Value-based play is fine. Guardians side of this one against Cutter Crawford. Another one, 33 2/3 overall. 3 starts, but mostly pitching as a long reliever this year. So let me pull up what I wrote about Crawford. You guys can read this as well. He's got them at a 4.06 implied run total because the Guardians have been bad. They're difficult to strike out, which we know. Crawford in a hybrid role, 33 2/3 innings, mostly, like I said, in long relief appearances. Even the starts, like his last start, I think was only 3 innings. 2 early starts, went to the bullpen, multi-inning relief appearances, starting role again, hooked after 3 innings, and the manager said, I wanted to protect his arm. So I don't know where the upside lands in terms of rostering Crawford, and the Guardians are good at avoiding strikeouts against righties. That's the only things that are kind of keeping Crawford from being a viable $6,800 value play. There is a little bit of upside if he gets 5 innings here. I think there's a little bit of strikeout-based upside, a little bit of clean innings-based upside for the pitcher. I think he's got enough talent to find a couple strikeouts against the Guardians here. But like I said, they're very good at limiting strikeouts against righties. But I think clean innings, if you get 5, maybe. I just don't know that we get 5. I think we might see a 3-inning start again here, maybe 4. Maybe they cut him at 70 pitches. You know, if there's a pitch count, if anybody's seen a pitch count on him, let me know in the chat here. Phil's tight. Oh, we don't have to worry about that one, right? So, yeah, we don't have that Phil's Tigers game on the board. That threw me for a sec there. So yeah, I think, you know, you can get away with Crawford. I don't know how much Guardians I want, given his general quality, even over 3 or 4 innings. Caps the Guardians' upside, and their upside was already capped. They don't have much power. They haven't been hitting well. They haven't been creating runs. We've talked about it enough, I think, in recent days. Naylor's been productive, up to 8 homers. Positive WRC plus finally, but that's alongside Ramirez, who's cratering to a 100 WRC plus now. Jose Ramirez, 252 plate appearances of exactly league average run creation. Not great. This is reminding me of that weird slump season he had a couple years ago, where he kind of fell apart at the plate. But he's a superstar by most measures, usually. But it's been ugly for Ramirez this year, alongside Kwan, Rosario, Bell, Jimenez, who have all been bad this year, and then Brendan Zunino Stroll at the bottom, who you don't expect anything from anyway. It is not pretty in Cleveland. Talked about that. So yeah, maybe certainly some Tanner Bybee probably is the most aggressive play, and then maybe a few hedge stacks of Red Sox. If you leave Crawford on the shelf, if you leave the Guardians on the shelf, I don't think it's a mistake. Small doses if you're rostering either of those options. Dodgers, major source of potential here. They are sitting at a higher run total than one of the 2 teams in course. The Giants are outpacing them for runs. The last time I checked, at 6.6 against Connor Siebold there. That's a killer spot. We'll talk about that at Coors Field in a little bit. But Dodgers, you know, keeping excellent pace with Coors Field here in Cincinnati. Going up against Brandon Williamson. He's made 4 starts, 19.8% strikeout rate, 12.1% walks, 5.17 xFIP. Goodbye, Brandon Williamson. I think this Dodgers team is going to tattoo you and chase you early here if you pitch like that. 13.1% barrels, 90.6 miles an hour average. Exit velo, 45.9% hard hits. Sign me up for some Dodgers. They're going to be popular. The Dodgers and Giants are going to be popular. They're going to be popular in combination with one another where you can figure it out. The key to that, sorry for rubbing my nose. My nose started running a little bit there. I think my allergies are getting to me, or maybe it's the smoke. I don't know what. As I was saying, the Dodgers and the Giants, crushingly popular, probably popular together. The key there is going to be putting it together with some under-owned pitching options and some inexpensive pitching options that kind of open up. Now I've got an extra $300-400 to play with, so I can afford to go from Miguel Vargas to, well, that's not appropriate. You guys know what I'm saying. I can afford to jump from JD Martinez to Will Smith. Right? It makes a difference. And now I can combine Smith, Freeman, and Betts in a 3-man instead of using the also excellent and potentially outstanding JD Martinez. It's a bad example of what I'm trying to say, but you can string together some combinations that aren't necessarily accessible when you're going to the chalky pitchers alongside those lineups. And that's where the optimizers tend to get you. They're going to go to those chalky pitchers with the key hitters here if they can. That's where you get these popular across all three squares combinations. So it's just a matter of taking the time to try and differentiate or help your model, help your optimizer of choice make those differentiated plays for you, and then selecting those differentiated lineups in whatever your process is. There are ways to roster the Dodgers and Giants together, and I'm going to try and get there tonight because both spots are killer. It's just a matter of getting it with a different combination than what everybody else is getting. So we don't really concern ourselves too much with the popularity. We want to go to these bats: Mookie, Freddie, Will, JD, Max, Chris Taylor, Miguel Vargas, Johnny DeLuca, Miguel Rojas. Play them 1 through 9. DeLuca making his major league debut at the dead minimum, 2,300, 2,000 on the FanDuel slate. He was raking in the minors. He had, 14 combined home runs across AA and AAA so far this year? Where is it? Yeah, DeLuca has 14 minor league home runs across 222 plate appearances this year in AA and AAA. So just another potentially key bat. He'll probably go under-owned, but he's a nice piece of value that's going to help you roster some of these other hitters. Chris Taylor is super interesting against the lefty here. Plays better against lefties. Was hitting cleanup when they were short a Will Smith and some of these other guys earlier in the season. Third base and outfield for 2,800 on DK, 2,700, 3 position eligible on FanDuel. Yes, sign me up for some of that. 9 homers on the season, a 261 ISO and 148 plate appearances. We know what we're getting from Taylor. He's not a star by any means, but the price is right. 3 positions is fantastic, and you're getting Mookie again with 3 positions on FanDuel. Second and shortstop eligibility to go with his outfield and second base eligibility that he's got across town. He should be a $4,200 to $4,500 player with that positional flexibility. $4,000 is an expensive FanDuel price, but it's low for Mookie if he's playing only in the outfield, let alone with 3 position eligibility. So smash spot for Mookie. Freddie Freeman, Will Smith, outrageously talented at first base and catcher / corner / util, not a pitcher, on the FanDuel slate. JD Martinez, 4,800, 4,000 is way too cheap. 4,800 anyway is way too cheap. 4,000 probably about right, but 15 homers, a 356 ISO for JD and 194 plate appearances. He was proving me wrong in terms of the contact profile isn't going to be there. The power isn't going to be there. He died on the vine. He might be effective for runs, but he won't hit for power this year. Wrong about that, idiot. JD, monster comeback season. Nice way to round off his the later years of his career out in LA. Cincinnati, you can fire away with Cincinnati here. I think Ellie De La Cruz is a nice bet to get his first stolen basic with Noah Syndergaard on the mound here. So if you're a prop better out there, that might be one to look at. Decent power upside for Cincinnati. Noah's interesting. He doesn't give up a ton of home runs historically. He doesn't give up a ton of power or contact historically. This year, 4.37% home runs, 8.3% barrels, 40% hard hits. That's targetable with some of these Reds bats. Jake Fraley, decent little power mark. Only 3,100, 4,500 across sites, 7 homers on the season, 11 steals. Another candidate for some stolen bases. Jonathan India, another candidate for some stolen bases with Syndergaard on the mound. So you've got a decent combination of runners here in the heart of the Reds order. There's a little bit of power. There's a little bit of run creation upside. They're also playing in the bandbox. They've got a lower run total, obviously, than the Dodgers do. I think the Dodgers were like 2 runs ahead of them. But I think there's enough upside with that top end. 1 through 5 anyway. Spencer Steer, 4,200, 3,400. First base on DK, third base on FanDuel. 290, 368, 493, a 203 ISO, 28% better than average creating runs, 8 homers on the season. From a guy who strikes out only 19.4% of the time. That's an effective player for those prices. So you're looking right here, if you're looking to Reds, moderate interest in mix and match pieces from the bottom. You know, we've talked about Stevenson. He's mediocre at the catcher role. Can hit one out from time to time. Stuart Fairchild, I believed in the contact from last year a little bit, maybe too much early in the season. Sitting 4.5% barrels, 26.1% hard hits this year. Was double the barrel rate, or more than double the barrel rate last year, and approaching double the hard hit rate last year. Only 2 home runs. There was small sample stuff last year. I think he had 5 home runs and 100 and change plate appearances. Yeah, 5 homers and 110 plate appearances. So we're not talking about a lot of sample from last year, but we thought he was going to maybe be a little bit more productive than he's been. Only 155 plate appearances, certainly time to turn it around, and could put bat on ball, could steal you a base from late in the lineup. So interest in the Reds bats, definite interest in the Dodgers bats. I don't think I need any shares of Syndergaard here. 52 and a third. He's been struggling. He's been the weak point. He was frustrated with himself in the media the other day. A 6.54 ERA, a 4.56 xFIP. Can Noah Syndergaard succeed against the Cincinnati Reds? Yes. Is he likely to find 10 strikeouts, dominate this game, throw 7 innings, give you a complete quality start, a win? The win, maybe. The quality start, possibly. The 10 strikeouts is doubtful. 15.3% strikeout rate. He could give you 6 clean innings. He could give you a win, maybe a quality start. For 66, 65, that's fine. I guess you can get there. It's a low-end, ineffective play in a bad ballpark with a frisky enough team on the other side that'll probably be running and creating runs against him. I don't love the spot for Syndergaard. I won't tell anybody they're making a mistake if they go to it, but it's a very low-end play in my opinion. Mets and the Braves. Couple of veteran pitchers in weird seasons. So stack LA. Yes, Travis, definitely. Stack LA. Absolutely. Travis Duarte in the chat there asking if we should stack LA. Yeah, we're stacking LA. We'll worry about the popularity. We'll find low-owned options in other spots. The opportunity is just too good for the Dodgers today. I don't care about the individual ownership numbers. I don't care about the team-based ownership numbers. We can get there and differentiate, find leverage in other spots. They're just too good, and they're just too good a lineup in too good a spot to take out. If you wanted to say, hey, I'm going to go to it, I'm going to get there aggressively, but I'm going to undercut, like, let's say, I don't know what Max Muncy's ownership number is, but let's say he's at 25%. Right? If you wanted to say, hey, I'm gonna go to them, but I'm gonna grab Muncy at 15 and spread out a little bit, I think that's perfectly fine. But don't say, hey, Dodgers are popular, I'm gonna completely undercut, I'm gonna completely take them out of my process here. That's a mistake. That's where people go haywire with ownership. People see high ownership and say, okay, don't play. And that's just not the right thing to do. And it's a misconception that I think the way that the tout community talks about ownership kind of perpetuates the misconception publicly. So I'm trying to make efforts to correct that. Anyway, 4:45, we got to pick up a little time here. Max Scherzer, Charlie Morton. Max scuffling along this year. It's funny. I was trying to write about it, and like I'm trying to say, this guy struggled, but then you get to a 3.21 ERA, a 25.3% strikeout rate. It's just non-Max Scherzer kind of numbers. But at 97, 96, he's not priced like Max Scherzer right now. I think those are appropriate enough prices for the guy that's giving us the 4.41 xFIP, the 3.68% home run rate against, the 25.3% strikeouts. Still a healthy 13.9% swinging strikes, 27.4% CSW. It's just not a great get-right spot with the Braves on the other side. There are strikeouts available in that lineup, but they're just so goddamn good. There are, 7 hitters with double-digit home runs? 6 hitters with double-digit home runs already in this lineup? Between Acuna, Olsen, Riley, Murphy, Albies, and Marcell Ozuna. There are high-quality options in Eddie Rosario for $3,100, $2,700 for value in the heart of the order from DFS perspectives. Orlando Arcia, who I talk about at cheap prices all the time, at the bottom of the lineup is an effective middle infielder. Shortstop only kind of sucks on DK for him at $3,600, but he's an effective enough shortstop that you can play him in stacks just as a shortstop play. I like him better as a guy you can move around in stacks as a utility guy. Shortstop, third base, second base for only $2,700 on the FanDuel slate. Dude's hitting 311, 372, 452 with a 125 WRC plus over 148 plate appearances. That might cool as time goes on, but he is productive enough for those prices and that flexibility. Michael Harris, we've talked about, remains very cheap at the bottom of the lineup. You can hang your hat on the 9% barrel rate, 44.9% hard hits, and all of last year's production. He should bounce back. The focus is obviously 1 through 7 with the Braves. I think you can roster them against Scherzer. I don't think it's great. You saw they had you probably saw, if you read my article, you saw they had a pretty aggressive run total here, though, for a start against Max Scherzer. So Vegas is accounting for Scherzer's struggles a little bit. They're throwing some runs the Braves' direction. I think you can both sides it, but the field might sleep on Max a little bit here in a tough spot against the Braves. And at those prices, if you get the Max Scherzer of old, that could be a dominant spot, even against the Braves. So I want to be in business with Max here. I definitely want to hedge with some Braves. At the same time, Charlie Morton looks pretty good to me against the Mets. Mets have underperformed overall. There's 20.2% strikeouts up and down the lineup. There are guys who are very good at limiting strikeouts in the lineup, like Jeff McNeil, but he's a slap hitter. It's not like he's very good at limiting strikeouts like Ronald Acuna is, where he's also deadly for power, deadly for stolen bases, and all of that. So it's not a the same kind of an option there. You don't worry about Jeff McNeil. He's just good at avoiding strikeouts and putting the ball in play. Pete Alonso's a deadly power hitter, 20% strikeout rate. That's, that's fine. That's arguably very good for a guy who hits for as much power, 22 home runs to lead the league. So you're throwing Morton into a semi-dangerous lineup with Lindor, Pete Alonso, Brett Beatty. I think you can roster Mets against him for sure. He's sitting at a 25.3% strikeout rate, same number that Max is. But for him, that's only down like 3 points year over year, where Max is down like 5 and change points. So it's a little bit better, a little bit more realistic for Charlie Morton. I don't think he's pitched all that badly. 3.62 ERA, 3.83 xFIP, 1.44 WHIP is a little higher than you'd like to see. The walks are up a little bit. 2.11% home run rate is fine. 88.4 miles an hour average exit velo. I think Charlie could give you a nice start here. Do I want to go to Charlie Morton with a lower overall projection in my model at 10.5 versus Max in a worse matchup at a higher projection at 9.6? I don't know how many times I want to do that, but I want to be involved with both of these pitchers. 92 is low for Morton on the DK slate. I think that's a nice buy here. Going up against the Mets, clean innings, certainly some strikeouts. I think there's a viable path to a win for Charlie Morton here. 5-6 clean innings, a win, handful of strikeouts, I think is perfectly in play here for Charlie. So he's on the board for me. 9,200 is the right price for him. Aggressive price on FanDuel, but I'll have some. The Mets I can roster, 1 through 5 with a smattering if you're getting carried away, a smattering of the Marte, Vogelbach, Canna section, and then you can go to Francisco Alvarez. Against Morton, maybe you fall back on the idea of he's still a rookie, still only slashing 237, 291. The 116 WRC plus, all the power he's displayed is great. But 23.6% strikeouts as a rookie going up against a guy like Charlie Morton. Maybe you temper expectations a little bit for Francisco Alvarez and don't get carried away. I do still very much like him. I think there's tons of power there, and he could certainly turn on one against Morton. Don't take him out of your lineups, but I think that increases the focus to like this part of the lineup, the Beatty and up. So this one's kind of a four corners option for me. I think if I'm going here, I'm probably, since he'll probably be low-ish owned, probably Max, then Charlie, then Braves, then Mets. But I wouldn't tell anybody they were completely wrong if they said it's Braves and nothing else, or that it's Braves well above, then Charlie, then Mets, then Max. Austin Persodin says feels like Max will get up for this matchup. I thought it's actually, when I read it first, I thought it said get lit up for this matchup. And I was going to say, yeah, that's definitely on the table with the way he's been pitching. And I also agree that I think he'll get up for this matchup. So, and I don't think he's been necessarily as bad as it may seem. So I think Max will round into form and we'll hopefully get the good one here at low ownership at a good price. 4 games to go. One of them's cores, we can kind of breeze through that one. I don't know if we've got confirmed lineups for this. We probably do. Orioles lineups confirmed. Frazier, Rutschman, Hayes, Santander, Hicks hitting 5th. So we touched on it earlier in the show. Aaron Hicks did get me yesterday. It was a mortal lock after I said that he sucked and didn't belong in a major league lineup. He went out and homered. Got to give it to him. Hitting 5th, for 2,500, for 2,300. He's got 2 homers on the year. If you want to go to him, fine. Hits from both sides of the plate. There's a minor amount of value there, but it's just not great for Hicks. What you hope for is his ability to extend at-bats, extend plate appearances, see a decent amount of walks. That has still come through, 10.6% walk rate for the season. But sitting at a 3.2% barrel rate, 27.4% hard hits. It's just that the barrels and the hard hits and all the quality disappeared when he did make contact. The ability to see pitches, the walks were still there with Hicksy over the past few years. But yeah, even I soured on him after supporting him for a while there. Obviously, with my rant yesterday, I'm not a fan here. Adam Frazier, kind of a weak option in the leadoff role in the absence of Cedric Mullins. Rutschman, Hayes, Santander, Gunnar. You can go to that part of the lineup. No Mountcastle today is a ding to this lineup. So a little bit of a boost there for Corbin Burns. You get Burns at 10-2, 10,000 here. He projects well in my model. Another guy, veteran pitcher with a formerly high-end strikeout ace caliber pitcher, down to just 22.8% strikeouts. 12.4% swinging strikes and 29.3% CSW, though. That tells me he's just not putting guys away a little bit. Last year, you can see it was obviously much better the year before. 30.5% strikeouts, 15% swinging, 32.1% CSW, even more aggressive the year before. So these have obviously come down significantly, but these are still good marks. So he should be striking out more hitters than he is, even with those levels. And if he goes back to being anywhere near the form that he used to be, I think we get major upside. So with the diminished version of the Orioles lineup in play here, I think I like Burns even better than I did earlier in the day, which was probably a decent amount. He might draw ownership. The price isn't bad for the former ace. Like I said, he projects fairly well. It's not that he's been, it's not that he's been pitching at a level where we want to have confidence in him. 3.75 ERA is elevated for him, a 4.41 xFIP, giving up a moderate amount of power, but not that much premium contact. I do think we get by, and I think Burns has been better maybe than it seems like he's been, another one of those types, but the numbers aren't great. More support in the numbers for Burns kind of struggling this year. But against this version of the Orioles, there's probably enough upside for him. Plenty of strikeouts available in this lineup. The guys who limit strikeouts, Adam Frazier is not an overly good player overall. Below average run creation this year, worse below average in 600 and change plate appearances last year. Adley, very good at limiting strikeouts, very good player. The rest of the lineup, 24, 25s, up to 30% strikeouts, could be nice upside here for Corbin Burns. I was more interested in rostering a few hedge stacks of Orioles before I saw this version of the lineup. I don't love this lineup. If I go there, it's like 1 through 6, only minor shares, small doses. If they get to Corbin Burns here, it probably costs me the opportunity to win the tournament tonight. I think I'll have more Burns than I will Orioles stacks. I think I'll limit the Orioles stacks. On the other side, the Brewers against Dean Kramer. We talked about the Brewers as a potential value option. Just look at all these low prices, particularly on FanDuel. A lot of affordable prices. I wouldn't call these necessarily low, but they're at least affordable. These are all low. So it depends on what comes out. They've dropped a few funky lineups on us recently. Oh, it looks like Willy Adames is back in an updated version of the projected lineup. That would be another boost to this. Let me grab this updated version of the projected. Somebody, if they've announced and it's been confirmed elsewhere other than Schmabs, somebody let me know. But if we get this version of the lineup, I just dropped it in as though it's confirmed. With Willy Adames back there at 2,900, 3,900, another major source of value. 9 homers on the season for Willy in 214 plate appearances. Obviously a robust barrel rate, 14.1%. A lot of hard hits over time, only 32.6% this year. Aggressive strikeout guy. Could lend upside to Dean Kramer, but definitely a nice power bat to find in this lineup going up against Kramer, who's been just filthy for power this year. 90.9 miles an hour average exit velo, 48.8% hard hits, 10.4% barrel rate for Kramer. I think he's better than what we've seen so far this season. 19.6% strikeouts supports that. 10.3% swinging strikes kind of does, but only a 25.3% CSW. That's ugly. So I think you throw some of these Brewers bats. If this turns out to be the confirmed version of the lineup, with Willy Adames in there, with Luis Urias in there, at cheap prices in the middle infield. Urias multi-position, 2 on DK, 3 on FanDuel. Owen Miller, 3 positions on FanDuel for only 2,800. There's a ton of value, ton of positional flex. This version of the lineup doesn't have the oddball value plays, the John Singletons, the Blake Perkinses of the world. But right now, I don't care about that. If I'm getting Urias and Adames back in the lineup, Abraham Toro, if I'm getting him for 2,600, 2,400, fills a value role there. I like the looks of this version of this lineup. So I'll get to some Brewers here. If you want to grab a few shares of Dean Kramer, especially at that 7,800 price on the DK slate with all the strikeouts available in the Milwaukee lineup, definitely not a mistake. He projects well enough as it was. At 7,800, there's value there. 86, dicey on FanDuel. He could get you there on a weekday for pitching if everything goes pear-shaped with other pitchers. He could be that guy who gives you that handful of points at 8,600 that's enough. But I don't see the path to the quality start as strongly as I see it for some of the other value options. So I don't love Kramer there. The Cards, the Rangers. Do we have the Cards lineup? I think we do. Yes, we do. Let me grab it. I think it looks exactly as expected. We'll confirm that as we talk it through. And let's see. All right. Johnny Gray against Jack Flash. So interesting pitching matchup. Rosterable pitchers on both sides, but you can see kind of lowish mid-board type projections. The price on John Gray, $89.95, better on DK than on FanDuel. It's a little bit aggressive going up against the Cards, who I know they haven't produced a ton of wins this year, but they are a quality lineup. They have been creating runs against right-handed pitching. There are 2 superstar caliber players in Goldschmidt and Arenado in this lineup. Bookending, Nolan Gorman, who is ascending to star caliber at 14 home runs, a 274 ISO, a 15% barrel rate for Gorman from the left side of the plate. At the very least, those 3 hitters are deadly good. And then you get guys like Brendan Donovan, Wilson Contreras, who's productive, Paul DeJong, Jordan Walker, Tommy Edman to bolt in around them. It's a productive St. Louis lineup. So Tempered expectations for John Gray, who hasn't been pitching as well this season as he did last year. The 2.51 ERA is deceptive, but I think the 4.61 ERA, xFIP rather, is probably a little higher than what his true nature is. You saw this is probably about right. The 3.96 ERA, the 3.46 xFIP from last year, 25.7% strikeouts is down year over year to this year's 20.1%. I believe that John Gray is this guy, not this guy. I don't know that I want to find that out tonight against the Cardinals, though, or take my shots at finding that out against the Cardinals. So limited exposures to Gray. At 89 on DK, I can justify it a little bit more. I'll have a smattering of John Gray at 95 on FanDuel. I think I prefer Jack Flash at 84, even though he's going up against this ridiculously good Rangers lineup that I will definitely roster going back the other way in case we get the clunky version of Flaherty. But he's shown enough in the strikeout upside in those weird starts this year. 23.1% on the season over 63 and a third in 12 starts. Has had his moments, has had his definite downsides. 12.6% walks is aggressively bad. That's not a good mark for walks. 4.55 ERA, 4.56 xFIP. It hasn't been pretty, but he's been kind of effective at limiting home runs, limiting exit velo, hard hits. 8.1% barrels is up, but that's on some launch angle in there. I don't know. Flaherty's dicey here. It's uncomfortable, but that's where we get successful tournament plays from, is these uncomfortable plays. He'll probably be pretty unpopular at 81, 84, I would think, against this Rangers lineup. So draw out shares of some of these guys. Take a couple stabs with Flaherty. Take a couple stabs with John Gray, but probably more enthusiastic at price about Flaherty than I am about Gray. So my enthusiasm would be more on the Flaherty side for pitching, more on the Rangers side, oddly, for hitting than on the card side. So it's probably Flaherty, Rangers, Cardinals, Gray? Cardinals and Gray tied. Call it Cardinals and Gray a tie. I'm not sure what to do with that one because he was checking their run total a little bit in Vegas, and they've been up and down. Like I said, they're good for run creation. I think they're still top 10 in the league against righties, but they've had their ouch kind of moments, and those typically have come when I've been overexposed to them. So it's an uncomfortable play, but like I just said, uncomfortable plays kind of win tournaments from time to time. If you're going to the cards, it's Donovan, Goldschmidt, Gorman, Arenado, and then mix and match pieces. If you're going to the Rangers, there's obvious talent from 1 through 5 with all the home run power, all the upside for run creation that those guys have had. Everybody in this lineup's been good for creating runs. You get Sandy Leon in the lineup, and you get Jonah Heim and no Mitch Garver today. So a 2-catcher configuration, but not the 2 catchers that we wanted. We got Jonah Heim, that's good. We got Sandy Leon, that's not good. Josh H. Smith, also not a great option for instead of Leody Taveras down there. Jankowski and Grossman, weaker back end in the bottom 4 there from Texas than I would have wanted, but serviceable enough at least through these guys. Maybe a few shares of a Josh Smith at cheap prices. Smith, 114 WRC plus and 115 plate appearances, but kind of a low end guy. I don't love Josh Smith there. But you can go to the Rangers. You can go to so kind of a 4 corners game here from me. I laid out the preferences. Coors Field, roster the Giants. Don't roster Connor Seabold. Roster the Rockies in small doses. They've got a limited run total. They're at like 4.6. The Giants are at like 6.6. That tells you the story of this game. The Giants, massive home run totals. The top 7 hitters all above average in the home run model. The average home run mark is 12.91 when 10 is the magic number here. So we'll see what we get. I don't think this one's confirmed yet. Doesn't look confirmed. So we'll see what we get in the confirmed lineup. But I think it'll look something like this. Lamont Wade, tragically underrated player in the leadoff spot here. 14.29 in the home run model, 10.8% barrels, 43.2% hard hits, 8 homers on the season, getting on base at a 429 clip over 226 plate appearances, creating runs 56% better than average. I know that he sometimes drops to the bottom of the lineup and he doesn't hit well against lefties, but most of the pitchers in the league are right-handed and he typically leads off. He should be more expensive than 39, 34 across sites. Rant over. Thairo Estrada, nice little piece at the top of the lineup. Expensive at $5,000, $3,900, but been productive the last 2 years. 6 stolen bases, 6 home runs, 13 stolen bases, 308, 354, 480. As a correlated scoring piece who has individual upside, clicking in alongside Wade, Jock Peterson with all his lefty power, J.D. Davis with his power from the right side and his run creation abilities. I really like the top end here. Coors Field or no, I would be going to this team. Like if this game was in San Francisco, I think I would be taking out shares of this team against Connor Seabold, let alone in a Coors Field game. So again, we know they're going to be crazy popular. We're just looking to put them together with lower owned, but still good secondary stacks, lower owned, but still good pitching opportunities. Just a minor set of offsets. Like I said, the lineup that I had in 5th place last night, if you found that on FanDuel, you would see a lineup that was filled with, it was the A's and the Braves and Kevin Gausman in a FanDuel lineup. So fairly popular value play, very popular premium stack, very popular pitcher. Not one of those things was a low owned play. Every single hitter in the lineup, as far as I can remember, was owned over 10% by the field, with the possible exception of Orlando Arcia, who might have been under 10%. But that's a win that came in 5th. It didn't win the tournament, but it missed by like 3 points. And it was a unique lineup. I never really worried that much about duplicating lineups for baseball. It's just not that much of a concern. There's just so much combination gymnastics that goes into it that my lineups are differentiated on their own without me doing all that much, to be honest. So it's not that big a concern. And if you get a lineup that's filled with guys that are in the 10s, a handful of guys in the 10 to 12% range, and then a bunch of guys who are in the 20s, fine by me. That works. Totally effective. You just need it to actually connect and deliver the fantasy points. So that buried the lead here a little bit. I want to talk about Logan Webb pitching at Coors Field. Are you guys interested in Logan Webb at 9,900 at Coors Field? I think it's a weird price at 11,000 on FanDuel. I don't think anybody's going to do it at that price, save for me and a couple other crazies out there. I think I am going to probably do it. Logan Webb is good enough to shut this Rockies team down. We've talked about Logan Webb a bunch of times because he's one of these keeps launch angle down, keeps the ball on the ground type of guys. Right? Over time, negative 0.5 degree average launch angle 2 years ago with a 1.51% home run rate, 5.6% barrels. Last year, 3.1 degrees with a 5.5% barrels, 1.40% home run rate. This year, homers are up a little bit, 2.91%. Launch angle's up a little bit. Or no, actually, that's down from 3.1 to 2.5. Barrels are up a little bit, 8.6. Hard hits up a little bit, 42.4. That's minorly concerning at Coors Field, but if he's keeping the ball down, I'm all in on, not all in, wrong phrase to use, but I'm somewhat enthusiastic about Logan Webb, more so at 99 on DK. He'll probably draw a few more shares there, but still probably won't be all that popular. 26.5% strikeouts, doesn't get himself in trouble, only a 4.9% walk rate, 2.85 ERA, 2.88 xFIP. I like the idea of getting to, especially if he's low owned, some shares of Logan Webb. Wes Maxwell nails it here. Yeah, I think you drop some. Shares of Logan Webb here. A couple shares of Webb. For Prondinger says, I'm more scared of the weather than I am the Rockies Coors Field when it comes to Webby. What's the weather like? I haven't actually looked too much at weather. Is it that concerning? I'm annoyed with what Schmabs is doing with their weather reporting this year. So it's just adds another couple of clicks that I have to make. Let me jump over. Scattered shower storms, not much more to say. Delay is fairly likely. PPD not out of the question. It's not great. But assuming the game plays, I think I like Webb. And you get that game's a little later in the evening. Yeah, the 8:40 start. With the way that FanDuel's doing it, especially this year, where you can, as long as there's other games to switch to, they unlock games this year in a rain out. I think they did it last year as well. With that ability, it kind of takes the weather concern out of it until later in the day, and then if it gets PPD, so be it. If the game plays, I think there's enough upside for Webb. What you don't want is the on-time start followed by a delay of an hour. And a restart. That kills you with Webb shares. So maybe we don't get carried away with it, but I don't think we're going to get carried away with it anyway. So I don't know that the weather concerns really dramatically undercut my expectation there. So let's see what else do we have in weather. Maybe stray shower in Atlanta. It says this is courtesy of Kevin Roth over at Roto Grinders. Thank you, Kevin Roth. Some wind blowing out in Atlanta. We know that the Detroit and Philly game was canceled. That's on another slate. We know that the Yankees and White Sox game was canceled on this slate. All right, so that's our weather report. Again, thank you to Kevin Roth. I didn't have a chance to check it out. That is, I don't know if that's behind the paywall over at Roto Grinders, but thank you to them if it is. Borrowing their information. I don't like doing that, but I was in a pinch, and I do pay for it. Let's see here. Where were we? So yeah, let's get some Logan Webb in our lives on both sites. Preference on DK at the better price, but probably very low ownership on FanDuel. Take some shares of Rockies. Charlie Blackmon's a correlated scoring and slap tool kind of slap hitter, hit tool kind of a guy these days. But you put him together with like McMahon, Grichuk, Nolan Jones, something like that. Maybe some Harold Castro. Look to some of these lefties, but I'm not really expecting major home run upside. I skipped over Mike Moustakas because Let's face it, 2 home runs and 102 plate appearances, a 138 ISO, 81 WRC plus. I don't know what he's really doing here at this point. Similar with Profar, just 2 guys who are, they're veteran guys who were good in years past, but they're just kind of occupying roster spots and salary here. So maybe they're just waiting for some, some contract rights timing and stuff to work out with some of the kids in the system. But most of those kids have gotten up to the show at this point. So I don't know what they're doing in Colorado, but it's not pretty. A few shares, minor interest in the Rockies stacks. I think their run total is pretty accurate today. 4 and change runs for the Rockies wouldn't surprise me. So Giants bats all day. Some Logan Webb. Minor shares of the Rockies. No Connor Siebold. Last game on deck, coming up on 5:10, so we got to get out of here fairly soon. Cubbies projected Miles Mastrobuoni not in the back end projections. Just ignore the blank spot up there. If he's leading off here, pencil him in for a handful of fantasy points as a projection. It's not pretty. 61 plate appearances, 170, 279, 208, a 43 WRC plus. If I'm going to Cubbies shares, which I think is viable here today, it's Nico Horner, Ian Happ, Seiya Suzuki, Dansby Swanson, maybe some Matt Mervis, maybe some Chris Morel. If we get Patrick Wisdom in the lineup, I definitely want to have some Patrick Wisdom in my lineups. He's their major source of power. What we're looking for with the Cubs is the same thing we've talked about the past few days. We're looking for some of that on-base acumen and that run creation acumen to come through. They're all moderate power hitters, but nobody really excels outside of Wisdom in terms of power. Matt Mervis hasn't really delivered much power yet. 78 plate appearances, 183, 256, 296 for the rookie. 2 homers, only a 113 in ISO. Might be a little bit undercooked, but what you do like is when he has made contact, 13.3% barrel rate, 51.1% hard hits. So that's viable at 2,100, 2,400. We're attacking Jaime Barria here. 3rd start of the year, 34 total innings, action out of the pen. I don't think there's much to love about Barria. I had to kind of do a quick version of this one in the write-up today because I had to jump on the show. I ran out of time. But I don't think there's much to love here with Barria. If you wanted to take a couple shares against the Cubs, it's fine. There's plenty of strikeouts there. The idea of 5 clean innings, 7,000, 6,200, I don't love it, but I think it's there. What did he do in his most recent start? I think I wrote it. Barria last start out, 5 innings, 1 run, 4 hits, struck out 6 White Sox. If you get that start, which I think is viable here, is possible here, 7,000, 6,200, that's a good DK start for 7,000. I don't know if I want that at 6,200 even on the FanDuel slate. I think I believe a little bit more in the upside for the Cubs, that it kind of limits my expectations on those dart throws. The price is fine. It's not like he's high priced for that FanDuel opportunity. So you can go there, but I don't think it's a play necessarily for me. At the same time, Jameson Taillon on the other side of this one, it's been ugly for Taillon this year. 7.05 ERA is certainly way higher than it'll be by the end of the season, one would expect. But a 4.68 xFIP is probably about right. 21% strikeouts is probably about right. Mediocre strikeout and swinging strike and CSW percentage. Giving up some premium contact, some power. I'm surprised the Angels aren't pulling a little bit higher over run total here. Taillon's good enough that maybe he gets you a handful of points in that scenario where everything else goes bust, including some of the other value plays. At 55, you could grab a few darts of Taillon, but it's not good. It's not highly likely to succeed. It's been ugly. I fully expect the Angels' power to come through. Grab some shares of Trout, Ohtani, Rendon probably back in the lineup. 3,300 for 27 and 2,700 for Anthony Rendon. That's a pretty good price for a guy who was hitting 295, 414, 362 when he went out. I know he wasn't in here for a lot of power this year, but that was a sneaky good triple slash from Anthony Rendon over 133 plate appearances from a guy who was hyper successful in years past, had some weird injuries the last few seasons, had that odd suspension where he tried to hit a fan in the face earlier in the year, but 25% better than average creating runs in that early year plate appearance sample. When Anthony Rendon's in the lineup, he is still a good player, and he is underpriced if he's getting cleanup today. Matt Thaiss is viable as a catcher. Brandon Drury and Hunter Renfroe have tons of power from the right side for cheap prices. Hunter Renfroe, 4,100, 3,000 on the FanDuel slate. Or excuse me, 3,600, 2,900. I was looking at Drury's prices. Those are even cheaper. Those are great buys for Hunter Renfroe and all his power upside here. I don't care that he scuffled a little bit during the late May and early June here. We know Hunter Renfroe is a deadly good power hitter, so put him into some of your Angel stacks. Get to some Angel stacks. If Jared Walsh is in the lineup at the dead minimum price on DK at 2,300 on the FanDuel slate, that's another good option. You get him when the other first baseman, especially over on DK where that really matters. Drury's a first baseman, but he's also got second base eligibility. Ohtani, an outfielder with also first base eligibility. So you can play Walsh alongside both of those guys. You don't have to make a sacrifice there. I really like that ability to flex those other guys to other positions and play Walsh alongside him. I wish he would hit a little higher in the lineup. His power justifies a better spot, but I think they're just waiting for him to kind of get engaged in the season. Only 47 plate appearances so far, and it hasn't been really pretty. 162, 340, 243, 77 WRC plus. No dingers yet in 47 opportunities, but I think that power comes around. What was it? 15 homers last year in 454 wasn't great. He was down last year, but 29 and 585 plate appearances the year before. That's the kind of guy we're looking for here from late in the lineup, especially at the min price on the DK slate. So we're grabbing some shares of probably the Angels. Fair amount of shares, I think, of the Angels is justifiable here against Taillon. Some shares of the Cubs. Probably doesn't push enthusiasm for Jaime Barria, but if you wanted to make the value play, I think there's enough there. Jameson Taillon, very tepid interest in a value-based opportunity there for Taillon. But maybe in that weird SP2 DK, didn't do anything special, but everybody else was worse kind of a start. Scrolling over to look at the old pitching board here. Let's see what everybody says. Weather is free. Weather's free. All right, cool. Glad I didn't put anything from behind their paywall. Sanchez cost you as much on D as he can give you on offense. Yeah, Gary Sanchez. That's our guy, Gun. Love Gary Sanchez. Good to see Gun in the chat again. Gun, maybe Friday. We were talking about, guys, doing a show together. I had said maybe today, but I don't think I followed up with Gun on that one. So if we're both free on Friday, Gun, maybe we do one of these together. So yeah, I think we're here. The board looks fairly straightforward in terms of the pitching. It is not a great pitching slate, but everything basically aligns in the order that I talked about it. I like the spot for Corbin Burnes despite some struggles. I really like Tanner Bybee. I'm hoping that Bybee goes a little bit under owned, but I don't know that he will at his prices. I like that spot for him against the Red Sox here. Love the upside for the kid. I think Scherzer pulls his act together a little bit for us and gives us a nice game against Atlanta, but obviously we're playing with fire and all that power in the Braves lineup. You can see I'm struggling for words after writing like 10,000 words and then talking for 90 minutes about this slate. The words aren't coming out of the mouth quite as easily here. But let's plow through here. Last couple things to talk about. Bassett, Lance Lynn, Charlie Morton, Jack Flaherty, all capable guys at pretty appropriate prices, I think, for their matchups for what they've been this season. So I think you can go to a pretty broad mix of the guys at the top end here. And then maybe, you leave a couple shares for Logan Webb for sure in my book. You leave maybe a couple shares for some of those super value-based pitchers. Maybe you say like, hey, optimizer, give me 1-2% of each of these guys, like 1% minimum, 2% maximum if your optimizer lets you do that, of the guys like, the Dean Kramers of the world, certainly. Maybe some Thor in that mix, maybe some Cutter Crawford in that mix. I don't like where Zach Davies, it's not a good projection, but 22.4, like that's a mediocre projection, but like where he is relative to everybody else on this board, you're seeing it makes it look like Davies is a better option than he probably truly is here. So I don't know that I go to Davies there, but you mix and match a few small shares of this into your pool of lineups. But really, this is my focus on the mound today. It's this group of pitchers. Outside of that, some of this guy, maybe some sneaky value. Corbin is not completely out of order. It sounds stupid coming out of my mouth going up against that Arizona lineup and all the power that we like and that we want to roster there. But, on a day short of value, maybe that's in play. Maybe the John Gray comes through. But, yeah, it's not great. This is my focus. I think this should be your focus as well, gang. Good luck out there. Throw me any questions in the Discord. I'll be hanging around. I got to make my lineups, get my act together here. Good luck out there. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you like and subscribe over on Gun's channels and watch all of his content as well. Follow him, throw some money at him, and get behind his paywall. Getting access for whatever Gun's charging for his home run model, his numbers and everything, whatever he's charging for probably isn't enough. And I'm certain that it's not as much as some of the other places out there in the industry. And you're probably getting just as good info, if not better. So make sure you're throwing Gun some love as well. But yeah, appreciate the hell out of you guys. We'll talk a little bit later. We'll be in the Discord hanging out, and I will see you later on. Good luck.